Sometimes a house isn't just a house, it holds secrets, whispers in the dark, and shadows that watch your every move. What seemed like a dream come true turned into a nightmare I couldn't escape. They say walls can't talk, but what if they could watch? This is the story of a new beginning that should have never started. Welcome to the new house. I had always dreamed of owning a home, a place to call my own, away from the chaos of the city. When I found the listing for the old house on Maple Road, it seemed like fate. The price was suspiciously low, but the photos made it look charming, or quaint even. The agent assured me it was just a fixer-upper. The day I moved in, I couldn't shake a strange feeling. The house was eerily silent, as if it had been waiting. It was old, with creaky floors and dusty corners, but it had character. I told myself the unease was just first day jitters, hoping it was just first day jitters. By nightfall, I began unpacking in earnest. The house had a way of playing tricks on me. Shadows seemed to shift in the dim light, and every creak of the floorboards sounded like footsteps. At one point, I thought I heard a faint hum, like someone singing far away. I stopped and listened, but it faded into the silence. And there was the mirror. It was hanging in the hallway upstairs, its ornate frame tarnished with age. The glass was slightly warped, giving reflections a distorted, unsettling look. I hadn't noticed it during the walkthrough. That night, I woke to a strange sound. It was faint at first, a rhythmic tapping, like nails on glass. It was coming from the hallway. I grabbed my phone and used its flashlight to navigate the dark. As I approached the mirror, the tapping stopped. The next morning, I found scratches on the mirror, long and jagged, as if something had been clawing at it. I should have left then and there, but the logical part of my brain insisted I was imagining things. Over the next few days, the house became more oppressive. Lights flickered, objects moved, doors that I swore I had closed were open. One night, as I sat in the living room trying to distract myself with TV, the power went out. The house plunged into darkness and I felt a presence. I feel it. It's a presence. Something was in the room with me. The air grew heavy and I heard breathing, slow and deliberate, coming from the corner of the room. My flashlight flickered as I turned it on, the beam shaking in my hand. In the corner I saw it, a figure tall and thin, its face obscured by shadow. It didn't move, didn't make a sound. It just stood there, watching. Sorry again, relapsing, by and by, moving towards the door. I bolted upstairs, locking myself in the bedroom. All night I heard footsteps outside the door, slow and deliberate. By morning the house was quiet again, but I couldn't stay. I packed a bag and left, vowing never to return. Hmm. A week later, I got a call from the new owner. She wanted to ask about the mirror, saying something strange had been happening. I didn't tell her anything. Some things are better left unsaid. There are places in the world that seem to carry a weight, a heaviness you can't see but can feel. A house standing in silence, hidden on the edge of a quiet town, holds a story that's too strange to ignore. It was bought on a whim at a price too good to pass up. But the things it hides beneath its walls, those are secrets no one should ever have to face. What happens when curiosity leads us into places we're more better off not knowing? And when the past of a house refuses to stay buried? This is the story of a house that was never meant to be lived in, of mysteries locked away in darkness, and of a presence that refuses to be ignored. Are you ready to uncover the truth, or would you rather leave the shadows where they belong? I never thought I'd leave the city, but when the chance to buy a house for a price that seemed too good to be true came up, I jumped at it. The house was old but spacious, sitting on the edge of a quiet little town. The real estate agent assured me the low price was due to the remote location and the house needing some work. She didn't mention anything else. The first time I saw the house, it felt off. It wasn't the peeling paint or the creaky floorboards. It was something else, something I couldn't put into words. But I brushed it aside. After all, I was finally a homeowner. I moved in on a chilly November morning. The house smelled like dust and wood, and it echoed with every step I took. The first few nights were uneventful, though I often felt like I wasn't alone. The feeling would creep in while I unpacked or walked through the dimly lit halls. I told myself it was just the adjustment period. Then, on the fourth night, I heard it. It started as a faint tapping sound coming from the basement. It was soft at first, irregular, like something gently knocking on wood. I froze, listening intently. My logical mind told me it was probably a pipe or the house settling, but my gut said otherwise. I grabbed a flashlight and headed down each step on the wooden stairs, groaning under my weight. The air in the basement was colder, almost damp, and the smell of mildew was strong. I swept the flashlight across the room, its weak beam barely piercing the shadows. I turned to head back upstairs, but the tapping started again. This time it was louder, sharper, and it was coming from behind the old wooden door at the far end of the basement. I didn't even know the door was there. It was small and unassuming, the paint peeling off its surface. It had no handle, just a rusted keyhole. My heart raced as I approached it, the tapping now constant. I crouched, trying to peer through the keyhole, but all I saw was darkness. It was clearly defined against the night sky, and the house let into darkness. At this point now, my heart raced as I approached the keyhole, but all I saw was darkness. "Hello?" I called, my voice trembling. The tapping stopped. I stood there frozen, waiting for something to happen, but the silence that followed was worse. It felt thick, oppressive, like the house was holding its breath. Finally, I backed away and bolted up the stairs, slamming the basement door shut behind me. I didn't sleep that night. And the next day, I called a locksmith, hoping to get the basement door open and put my fears to rest. When the locksmith arrived, he seemed uneasy the moment he stepped into the house. "This place feels heavy," he said, giving me a strange look. I brushed it off and led him to the basement. When he saw the door, he frowned. "This is old, real old, looks handmade. Are you sure you want me to open it?" I nodded, trying to hide my nervousness. It took him nearly an hour, but he finally got the lock to click. The door creaked open slowly, revealing a small dark room. At first glance, it seemed empty, just stone walls and a dirt floor. But then I saw the carvings. Symbols and markings were etched into the walls, strange and intricate. Some looked like writing, but not in any language I'd ever seen. In the center of the room was a wooden box, about the size of a shoebox, sitting on a small pedestal. The locksmith backed away, muttering something about bad energy and refusing to go any further. He left in a hurry, leaving me alone with the room and the box. We stopped at a gate. Against my better judgment, I stepped inside. The air was colder here, heavy with a metallic tang that made my skin crawl. I reached out and lifted the box. It was surprisingly light, but the moment I touched it, a chill shot up my arm. I carried it upstairs and set it on the kitchen table, staring at it for what felt like hours. Should I open it? Every instinct screamed no, but curiosity won. Inside, I found an old photograph of a family, parents and two children, standing in front of my house. Their faces were pale, their expressions blank. Under the photo was a small rusted key. That night, the whispers started. At first, I thought it was the wind, but as I lay in bed, I realized the sound was coming from inside the house. Faint, indistinct murmurs that seemed to come from all directions. I got up, grabbing the flashlight again, and began searching. The whispers led me back to the basement, to the small room. The door, which I had left open, was now shut tight. Upon special command, the outside door, which I had left open, was now shut tight. I used the key from the box to unlock it, my hands shaking. As the door creaked open, the whisper stopped, replaced by a low, guttural growl. Something moved in the shadows. I don't remember much after that, just flashes. Running up the stairs, slamming the door, and hearing heavy footsteps following me. It was the fallen night, when we discovered that all the places and buildings were groaning. Art was hunting me for something. I left the house that night, driving until the sun came up. When I returned with the police the next day, the house was empty. The basement room was gone, replaced by a solid wall of stone. I sold the house a month later, losing most of my savings in the process. but I didn't care. I just needed to get away. I just let it. Even now, I can't forget the whispers, the cold, all the feeling of being watched. Sometimes, in the dead of night, I hear the tapping again, faint and distant, and I wonder, did I leave the house or did it follow me?